accumulation country. It's that time of the week again. My name is Phil, or Coin Icarus on Twitter, and this is the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. We are in season 3, and this is episode 29. I hope everybody's having a great week. I've got a really cool episode lined up with fellow Bitcoiner and fellow plebe, Nabismo.Prime. So Nabismo is putting together a really good kind of pre-coiner, no-coiner website called getcoined.io with a bunch of really helpful resources. So I obviously suggest that people check it out. But besides that, we go into the rabbit hole story and we discuss, various aspects of, Bitcoin and, the philosophy of money and, all the really fun stuff that that has been captivating us. So anyways, before we get into that, though, we are going to talk about dollar cost averaging and Swan Bitcoin. For anybody who is interested in dollar cost averaging and who wants to be purchasing Bitcoin but doesn't want to be spending their time constantly watching the charts and listening to traders that they really have no idea whether these people are credible or not, and you kind of just want to put this in in a passive sleep mode where you're simply just accumulating and hodling, being able to transfer that Bitcoin out to your own private address. So if you're interested in doing that and that falls in your wheelhouse, then you are looking for Swan Bitcoin. With Swan Bitcoin, the 3 main takeaways are we can do automatic withdrawal from a bank account, automatic purchases of BTC. You can time them based on your when you receive your check. You can do it let's say once you can do it once a month. Or you can do it per pay period as well. There's lots of options for you to be able to customize how you purchase. And you could automatically withdraw to your chosen address. So if you're interested in a Bitcoin-only platform that is doing the great work of helping onboard people, then you definitely want to check out Swan Bitcoin. I'm going to have the link to their website in the show notes. And now, here is my discussion with Nabismo.Prime. I have a fellow Bitcoiner and a person who's become a pretty good friend of mine in the Bitcoin space joining me today, and we are going to talk about his website, getcoined.io, and we're also going to discuss his rabbit hole story. I am talking about Nabismo.Prime. Nabismo, thank you very much for joining me on my podcast, man. Long
Thanks
overdue.
for having me, Coin Icarus. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be on here. I've been listening for about probably over a year now, I think.
Yeah.
About that, or maybe about a year. But yeah, no, good stuff. I'm excited to be on here.
Very cool, very cool. So look, since you've listened, you know exactly how this goes. I always want to know, about the thinker behind the thought, and what got you into Bitcoin, and why are we here now?
That is a great question. I kind of laugh at how I ended up where I am today. I first heard about Bitcoin in probably 2010, 2011, and I'd be a lot better off right now had I gotten into it back then, but it just wasn't my time yet. I somehow came across Bitcoin mining as a kind of like passive stream of revenue, but I had no idea what I was doing and no real money to invest, so I just kind of put it on the back burner for a number of years because I didn't really understand truly what Bitcoin was. It didn't really catch my attention again until the 2017 bull run. And that's when I got my first taste of Bitcoin. I was a Coinbaser right from my phone. I think I bought my first Bitcoin with Coinbase paying some ridiculous fee. And I just had to have it right then. And I didn't really know what I was buying. I didn't know what I was getting into. My background isn't in finance, or now it's in technology, but it wasn't at the time. I was managing restaurants and I was just looking for a way to make some extra money. I knew letting money sit in a bank account was probably the worst thing I could do to invest. So I was lured in by all the massive gains everyone was making on Coinbase, and Bitcoin was my first buy, but then I eventually was lured in by the shitcoin sirens and got wrecked accordingly. I had no idea what I was doing. And just, putting some money in just every coin they had offering pretty much, because they were just all doing ridiculous pumps at the time. And I knew some people making a lot of money off of these coins that they didn't really understand either. So I figured, why not me? But after getting wrecked in shitcoins a bit, I started to focus on Bitcoin a little bit more. I think I originally started kind of on Reddit is where I started getting interested in Bitcoin most, and I was following a lot of subreddits about different cryptocurrencies, and I finally started to gravitate towards Bitcoin because I was interested in the Lightning Network. I had seen some videos of people using the Lightning Network, and I just thought it was amazing. And I started to question, what is this Bitcoin that I'm so interested in investing in, and what is its actual value proposition? I started to learn about how Bitcoin works and why it's better than fiat currency, how it's different, and what the Lightning Network was, and what limitations layer one had that the Lightning Network was possibly able to solve. And I just started reading more about it. And I eventually somehow came across Bitcoin Twitter and got involved in the Raspberry Blitz project. I started building that as I had just started to get into programming, but I needed some help along the way. And I think that's where you and I originally met, in the Raspberry Blitz Telegram group. I think I was asking for help about, I don't even know what at this point. I think the install went pretty smooth, but I remember I came to you a couple times in the early days of the Raspberry Blitz about I had power failures. Yeah, that happened a couple times. And I think I've done the initial block download like 6 or 7 times now with that. And I finally learned my lesson and have it backed up on a external hard drive. But I was definitely out there on in the Telegram groups and in Bitcoin Twitter, just kind of meeting people, learning things about Bitcoin. And I just fell down the rabbit hole. I started listening to a lot of podcasts. Started with yours, a couple other ones, Tales from the Crypt. I used to listen to What Bitcoin Did, but I've kind of fallen out of touch with that. And I've picked up a bunch of other great ones on the way, the Stephan Livera podcast. And I'm starting to finally, it wasn't until my late 20s, starting to understand exactly what money is and how that works, and just how badly I'm being screwed. And I wanted to opt out of that. And Bitcoin allows me to do that.
Very cool. Nice. All right. So, okay. So you mentioned that you manage restaurants, and now you're doing something a little more technical, right? You said.
Yeah. So I actually, I haven't even started the other job yet, but I was working in restaurants. I went back to school at 27 or 28, and I'm almost done with my program now. So I'm starting to get out into, I've been studying computer science, networking, and security, and I'm starting to get out into the IT role. And I just had the 3rd or 4th interview last night with a company that is drafting an offer for me. And that's actually with a pretty well-known POS company within the restaurant industry. So I'm definitely going to try and orange pill them and turn them on to Lightning, because we began talking about that a little bit with one of the technical leads in the interview.
Nice.
So I should be starting that soon, within the next couple of weeks, hopefully. That'll be something new for me, but it's exciting.
Cool, man. That is fantastic. And you know what? That is a perfect entry, for Lightning, because that is the type of payment that it's meant for. You've got the invoice terminals, as you know, with the Raspberry Blitz. So that is the perfect marrying, right?
And I'm gonna
technology and use case. Well, for
be
that
getting
use
to
case.
play with a lot of these machines as well. They have a lot of guest-facing terminals as well, for that they've specifically designed for COVID as well, or to help with social distancing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Of course, we can't forget that's going on all the time still. So.
Yeah, I don't even. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. So you also, I mean, besides moving into more tech, you're also working on a website that I saw that you've mentioned to us is getcoined.io, and that we're going to put that link in the show notes. But man, it looks like it looks like a really great website full of resources for newbie Bitcoiners, right?
Mhm.
And maybe even advanced users. And I noticed that you got some cool little tools on it as well, like an ROI calculator. So maybe if you can, for the listeners, just talk about why. What was it that made you decide to create content in Bitcoin, right?
I wanted to be a part of Bitcoin somehow, and I wasn't sure exactly how to do that, especially where I wasn't from a financial background or technical background. I'm not a C programmer. I can't just jump in and start working on that, but I wanted to be a part of it somehow. I really liked what was going on in Bitcoin, Twitter, and the Telegram groups. Originally, when we first met, I had a website before that was kind of devoted to educating people about just cryptocurrency in general. But as I kind of, don't think I was holding any shitcoin bags at the time, but I wanted to make the distinction that, there are other cryptocurrencies out there. But since I've completely rebranded and decided to focus on just Bitcoin, and they can figure out about shitcoins on their own, or maybe just
Or not?
conclude why not to buy them. Exactly. So I refocused and wanted to bring people together to learn about Bitcoin. And I think you were saying it the other night, maybe on Bitcoin Magazine or BTC Kindergarten, how hard it was back in 2017 to learn about Bitcoin and how all these great resources didn't quite exist. I mean, some did, but not all of them. So I wanted to make a website that was not very intimidating for people that had absolutely no idea what Bitcoin was, to be able to come and get an elementary understanding of what Bitcoin is, its capabilities, and how to start investing and using it, particularly through the dollar cost averaging method of investing, and teach people about Lightning Network as well. So I wanted to create a website in kind of layman's terms where you just combined all three things, or one person can learn about that in one place. And from there, there's also, like you said, the resources section where they can further their research and learn more about the specifics in both the tech and finance, people that are more qualified to explain that than myself. I'm just trying to help onboard the next wave of new users that are, seeing these ads on Snapchat saying, what's a Bitcoin? What's this Coinbase stuff? People coming out of the woodwork asking all sorts of stuff. And the ROI calculator is kind of a tool to help people realize the potential of an investment in Bitcoin. I had started learning Python in school, and I had started doing some programming projects for that. So I eventually, for a project, built an ROI calculator with Python. And there's the command line version of that on the website as well. If you see, it's a little confusing on the ROI calculator tab. There's a link to a separate website, which me and, you remember my friend Miles that I brought on BTC Kindergarten, he helped me out with the web application, graphical user interface version of the ROI calculator. And he did a great job on that with that's all from scratch, actually hosted on a separate server on a lamp stack. So that was a fun little project that we had been working on, but it was originally born out of the command line interface version. Actually, I had a GUI for it as well, but I didn't make it to the website. And it just scraped Bitcoin price from CoinMarketCap and performed some operations in the background. And it was really basic, but it was just a tool to show people, if you invested $100 in 2015, this is what it would be worth now. Mm-hmm. And it was cool playing around with that and just plugging in random dates, and kind of the remorse I had for knowing about Bitcoin and not buying it back then. But I guess I didn't really know how to. I don't know if I would have bought off Mt. Gox. That sounded pretty sketchy. back in the day. And knowing me, I probably would have held it on there. But
Yep.
glad I didn't fall victim to that. So it's all just been a project to kind of expose pre-coiners to Bitcoin and hopefully get them interested in investing it and curious about the Lightning Network and the possibilities that it provides.
I like it. I like it a lot. I find the format that you chose. It's a nice simple format. When you go onto the website, it's it's not confusing or anything like that. It's like easy to navigate. So I think it's really cool. I think you guys
That's
you did a great
exactly
job.
what I wanted. Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate that.
I really like it. I wanted to go back though to a couple of things that you were talking about, like when we. That's right. I don't know if people caught it, but this is the. I think this is the one of the very few Bitcoiners I've met in real life. Right.
Yep.
Is Nabismo.Prime. We've actually met, and so I went down a very similar road as you, right? Like in my original podcast, the same way that your original website was like, kind of, still talking about shitcoins because you were still going through that journey. So like you see, the getcoin.io is that natural progression into being a full Bitcoiner, right? Like in terms of your the material representation of what you're showing the world.
Absolutely.
And I find that I went through a similar path. If you listen to some of my first podcasts, I'm like a shitcoin apologist. I'm like, Bitcoin's number one and it's the best, but there's these other projects and you want to make sure you know about them. It's like
Exactly.
Don't buy them, but you still want to be aware. And it's like, no. Like after more progression, it's like, no, who gives a shit? You can go and lose your money all on your own. You can go and learn that crap. I'm not going to teach it to you. So
yeah,
very similar paths.
I no longer want to give them a platform. And I remember thinking, like, when we met, you were pretty toxic. I mean, not like you didn't say anything rude, but like you were like, Bitcoin is it. And I've learned my lesson from shitcoins. And I'm like, maybe I should, learn more about these shitcoins. Because I was still learning about that as well. To be honest, I mean, I think Ethereum is just way too complicated. I don't think it's money at all. I remember we talked about that. And I just wanted to learn more about why Bitcoin was so much better than these and why I shouldn't give them a stage at all. Or even, I mean, I do mention shitcoins in there because people naturally have the question, well, I've opened up Coinbase and I have all these choices. Which one's the right one to buy? And it just, I guess it opens up the discussion. Why are you buying it in the first place?
That's right. Right. And like, that's something I always mention is, people that's one of the symptoms of, or like one of the reasons why people fall down the shitcoin, the shitcoin rabbit hole is because they forget why they came here in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like you come for the money, and then all of a sudden you get lost in the shitcoins, and then you have to remind yourself that you came for the money,
Exactly.
So it's,
I have sound money, and I had no idea what that was before getting into Bitcoin. And it took me a while to kind of start to wrap my head around the financial side of Bitcoin. I mean, I understood the censorship resistance and stuff, but I just didn't understand how important that scarcity was, and the fact that I actually own that. I mean, I unfortunately had my bank account frozen some months ago, and that was a ridiculous experience that I had to go through. It was frozen for a while because of Bitcoin. Well, somebody did a Zelle chargeback on me, and I basically had to defend myself in a fraud investigation from the bank and prove my innocence. And I printed off like 25 pages of evidence, and I ended up winning. But my bank account was frozen for 2.5 months luckily I had other ones to live off of, but it was completely frozen, no money out for like 2.5 months. And it really further helped me understand the importance of Bitcoin and that censorship, and that it's not easily seized.
So I think people really, you make a very good point, and I think people really need to internalize that point. You had other accounts, so you were able to continue to survive. But if you're a parent or something like that, and you're feeding a family and you only have one account and it gets frozen for 2.5 months and you've got bills to pay, and it's like, why the fuck would we allow a third party institution to stop us from being able to feed ourselves and to survive? Like, it's like, how does, you know what I mean? Like, how does anybody consent to that? And yet we've all done it en masse. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, we've all consented to this bullshit. And people sit there and they say, oh, well, I don't want the personal responsibility, Like, that's one thing I find about Bitcoin is that people, I call them pre-coiners because they don't have any, they don't have any Bitcoin yet, and they're no coiners, right? But these people always come up with this bullshit, this bullshit narrative about, oh, well, the FDIC insures my funds, and if I want to get money back, the bank can help me do that. Like, you realize that, it's like, we are offsetting the responsibility to these institutions, and then we allow these institutions to control our ability to spend. That is a horrible fucking trade-off.
Yeah, asking for permission to spend your own money, or
right?
Supposedly your own money, and it's not.
And like, think about it, right? You spent your time earning that money,
mm-hmm.
right? Can you
Yes, I did.
Can you withhold your time back from the bank? Not a fucking chance. Like, it's just such mental bullshit, and then we just sit there and we're like, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah. Yep. Until you opt out.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I know we've seen some tweets recently, right? There was the Peter McCormack and the Stefan Livera podcast. As we discussed before this podcast, right? They talked
mm-hmm.
about the funnel with Dan Held, right? And Dan,
yep.
Like, Dan came up with this idea, about how Bitcoin needs marketing, and he put forth a bunch of stuff which some hardcore Bitcoiners disagree with, and mm-hmm. I personally think that there is no funnel, because even though I talk about getting shitcoined, it's I got shitcoined because of the lack of high quality Bitcoin material that was
mm-hmm.
That wasn't available, which is now available. So I truly believe that people get shitcoined at this point because they make that decision. Like, they go for their greed, and they give into their unit bias, and they give into their false ideas, and they're like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to go for the easy money,
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the funnel and getting pre-coiners in? Do you think that they necessarily have to be sold these services that are, possibly not Bitcoin friendly, just because they're available to a wider audience?
No, not necessarily. I think everyone kind of needs to find Bitcoin for their own reason, maybe, and not just because of a product or something that's offering Bitcoin, or some other shitcoin. I don't really know where I stand on that, to be honest. I think that I like seeing Bitcoin get exposure, and people kind of, seeing it in more mainstream sources and starting to question it. But I would caution people to do their own research, as we say, and seek out these quality resources where they can learn more about Bitcoin, why it's important, and how to responsibly own it.
Yeah. I definitely agree. It is a bit of a slippery slope, right? Because like you said, it's like, you want adoption, okay? And we all understand that people, the average person wants to have a seamless UX, right? And yep. It seems that not just in Bitcoin, but in every day, right? The scammers have the marketing dollars. Right? It's
absolutely.
It just seems like it, and that's something, that's something that I ended up learning, is that, for some reason, the scammers end up having the dollars to spend on the marketing, whereas the honest, we'll say, like, the honest truth type of material is a little bit more, below the surface. So it's a good discussion. It definitely is. I know we haven't heard the last of it. It's
Yep.
it's definitely going to come back. And in talking about, I guess, that funnel adjacent to that, there's a new product that Jack Mallers has been, pitching for a little while, getting us all excited, and it finally came out. And you and I were talking about this before. I think this kind of has to do with the funnel, and this is kind of some top funnel stuff because you've got a nice, easy app you can install, and you can get going on Lightning right away. And I'm talking about LN Strike. Did you get a chance to try it out, and what do you think?
Game-changing stuff. Yes, I downloaded it yesterday, and I think, like you had said, within less than 5 minutes, I had paid an invoice right out of my bank account, and I can't wait to dazzle some normie people with this, and hopefully it inspires more conversations around Bitcoin and Lightning and kind of piques their curiosity. I think it's really fascinating, and I know that Jack is trying to use it for dispensaries as well, and I think that'll be a huge improvement for the dispensary experience, because I know that right now out here it's either cash, or if you use a debit card, or so you can only use a debit card, can't use a credit card. It's like a 4% extra fee, and it's already pretty expensive as it is. So I would love to see them keeping more of that money too, because it's not even going towards the business, or most of it.
We have Can Pay as well. I personally haven't used that myself. I've only used cash or debit.
Yep.
Do you know anybody that's used Can Pay, or anybody that's had experience with that?
No, I think I do remember you telling me about it though, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't actually know anyone that uses it. So most people just use cash or debit, and I think you're right. I think that LN, if they can get LN Strike into more of these dispensaries, I think that would be really cool. Because they do have a challenge, right? Because the state government, it's legal by the state, but the federal government doesn't agree with it, and obviously the federal government doesn't accept it, and so we have this legal battle from the banks, right? Because the banks can't actually process your transactions I guess we'll say the simplest way, right? You have to go through this sketchy roundabout method.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird.
It is, definitely.
Yeah, I used it also yesterday, the LN Strike, like just to, I set it up, connected my bank account to it and everything like that. I found it really easy, and it was, I love Cash App. I know that this is, different, but I think that this is I think this is actually even a step up on the Cash App user experience.
Yeah, no, one thing I love about Jack's work, and I know it's a team behind this as well, because I've been in the Zap Slack channel as well for a little while. I'm not very active in it, but I love Jack's approach to UX and UI. They're very sleek products. I love my Zap wallet as well. That's probably the one I have that connected to my node, and I use that most often. I just love how simple everything is and how kind of intuitive it is to go through the program. I love how I think a lot of normies in my life, I'm reluctant to show some of the more complicated wallets and ways of buying Bitcoin, but I could see pretty much just about anybody in my life using LN Strike. I mean, it's effortless to explain. It's you don't even have to take a picture of ID or anything like that. I loved it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's really cool stuff, and I'm super excited for the future. Is it only available in the US right now? And
I think that might be the case, because I know he had to do a great deal of meetings with legislators around in the U.S. So I think he was only tackling the U.S. market at first. I don't know if he plans to go global, but I did see a bunch of people on Twitter kind of, I guess complaining is not the right word, venting about the fact that they weren't able to use LN Strike because it wasn't available in their area.
That's right. I think New York is one of those states that can't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We're going to switch gears a bit, and I just wanted to ask you, what would you say was your biggest challenge with Bitcoin and or Lightning
Biggest challenge in Bitcoin and
for you?
or Lightning. I would say probably making the change to securing my own Bitcoin with my own node and my own keys. And I started to play with some command line stuff, and I messed some things up and did lose a little bit here and there. My original wallet, the blockchain was corrupted, and I was not able to get the funds back that were in those channels. And I've run into a few small problems here and there, and that's probably the most difficult step, because like I said, when you're buying on Coinbase and stuff like that, a lot of people don't really realize what they're buying and how this Bitcoin is secured with the private keys and all of that. And I guess once you're responsible for that and you can actually lose it, it's a different story. I haven't lost much, but I did lose some in a join market mishap as well. I have no idea where that coin went. I restored the wallet in Electrum as well with a bigger derivation gap, and I just cannot for the life of me find out where they just disappeared. So I don't know. It's difficult when you start to get into some of the command line stuff, especially if you don't really realize what you're doing sometimes, and I'm kind of learning as I go along. But I don't think I've lost. I obviously haven't, other than the Raspberry Blitz mishap. I haven't really lost much funds.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. And I just wanted to add, those are all sacrifices to the Bitcoin gods. I know exactly. You know what? We do it for the people, right?
Yes.
You know, I'm right there with you. I've lost. I think at this point, thanks to a Bitcoiner that requests to remain nameless, he was able to help me get a lot of funds back from one of my nodes. So I'm pretty much only down maybe 1% of a BTC in total.
Okay, that's a lot better than last time, because I remember when we did meet up, you were telling me about that mishap, and I was just like cringing for the next week.
Yep. So I was able to enlist somebody's help for a fee, and
that's awesome.
I'm totally grateful.
People that are willing to help as well. I mean, you've helped me a lot, especially in the early days of the Raspy Blitz, but every time I ask a question, I get people just lined up to help me out. And that's been great. And I've actually had a lot of people help me with the website as well. A lot of Bitcoiners off Bitcoin Twitter kind of helped collaborate in a Word document for some of the content. I love that about the Bitcoin Twitter, at least.
Yeah, contrary to a lot of shitcoiner narratives that we're all incredibly toxic and just terrible fucking human beings. We actually like to help people. So and it's you know what? To me, like the way I see it, because of my job, I know what it's like to be stuck. I know what it's like to be sitting in front of something in the middle of the night with no help, and the whole system is down, and there's no one you can call. And once you've gone through that feeling, it feels good to be able to help somebody else, even if that's not their situation, just because you understand what it's like to be stuck. And it's just a horrible feeling. It's like you'd be willing to do something if you knew what to do. Kind of thing. It's like, so I think it's important, that people help each other, and I think that in the long run it benefits us all, right?
Absolutely. Because somebody get to that adoption somehow,
right? Somebody helped me at some point, so it's all reciprocal. It's definitely all reciprocal.
Gotta pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you have any other plans for the website or anything like that?
Just working on more content. I've kind of had to put it on the back burner while I got some stuff done in real life. But I don't. Just kind of refine the content and add more content as I go along. And like I said, I've been having people from Bitcoin Twitter kind of conferencing with them and seeing what makes sense to keep, and just getting a bunch of different feedback on what's important for pre-coiners to understand when first getting into Bitcoin, because sometimes I tend to leap into overly technical discussions, and that's exactly what I'm trying not to do. I don't want people to be scared away from the website. So I just want to keep it simple. I want to have worthwhile content on there, and I want people to walk away with an elementary understanding of Bitcoin and how to get started investing in it.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, you know about the Bitcoin magazine from Katya and Hodlonaut, right? Citadel 21.
Love it.
Are you going to? Are you planning on contributing an article?
No pressure. Some point and someday.
No pressure, but I feel like you could put something really good together.
Possibly. I mean, you set the bar pretty high with that other one last issue. That was a great article.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, if I did, it would take me a little while to put something together, because I just really have like verbal diarrhea when I'm writing something, and it takes me like many revisions to kind of, pull myself back from like a ranting lunatic to, having a coherent thought. But I don't know, maybe someday that would definitely be a nice accomplishment. I'd love to be featured in that. That would be an honor. I really like what they're doing there, and all the cool projects like that spinning up in Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, how many nodes do you run?
Just that one.
Cool.
Just the Raspberry Blitz. I'd like to set up a My node as well, just because I've heard so many great things about it, and the UX UI looks really cool. And I really have heard nothing but great things about it, but I just kind of want to see what else is out there. I would love to set up, I know you can run Dojo on a My node, correct?
Yes, you can.
Okay, you can run that, because I was looking at the Nodal Dojo as well. I think that just looks cool as well, but I'd really like to, where I'm pretty familiar with LND implementations, I'd like to try something C Lightning at some point.
I know, right?
I know you were talking about that like a couple of months ago. I forget who the guest was.
It could have been, what was her? I think, was it Dr. Orlova or something like that? I feel bad. I'm not getting the name right now, but yes. She was talking about they're working on a Rust implementation of C Lightning or something, and I would also like to run a C Lightning node, where I just want to see if there's a difference. I want to, it's just like I just want to see.
Yeah, I want to see
what
what's
is it
different about it.
Yeah,
I think we're both tinkerers, and we just want to. I mean, I know you got a couple nodes going. I've seen you got some pretty cool looking nodes, and I really gotta spruce up the visual appeal on mine, because the LCD screen's cool and all, but I gotta get myself like a crypto cloak or something, because it's looking a little bare.
Shout out to Crypto Cloaks.
Yes.
Hey, definitely shout out to Crypto Cloaks. Me too. I'm a huge fan. I actually just recently placed an order with him to get that the Honey Badger and the cold card. Holy crap! What's it called? The Cold Power cold card, where you put your own little D battery.
Yeah,
and it powers
that was
it.
Pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. I can't help it. No,
I think it's great as well. I love the Honey Badger thing. I was joking when they originally came out with it that they should, for some reason, I looked at it and it reminded me of like a kid's, like, like the race car beds they have. I'd be like, that'd make a cool kid's bed. Kids one day would have that. But yeah, no, I like the stuff they're putting out, the big grenades. I want to start playing with open dimes and cold cards, because I am using hardware at the moment, but not that. And like you said, I'd like to have a bunch of different wallets around. I'm just testing out a little bit of everything, and keeping everything kind of spread out as well. I'd like to start playing with Cold Card, because, again, I've also heard nothing but great things about it, and I like these little projects they have.
And you know what? To make a suggestion for Cold Card, if one of the videos that I used that I really liked was Matt Odell's Cold Card video from Tales from the Crypt. It was really good.
I did. I skimmed through that, and I will definitely be going to check that out when I actually buy one.
You'll see. It's very easy. I was very intimidated by Cold Card, and it has when I first got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that such a simple little device can be so intimidating. But for me, I found it intimidating because it just I didn't take the time to understand it, and as soon as I sat down, took the time to understand it, which took less than a half an hour. Okay, so to all those those people that think they're going to sit there and spend days and days, it's like less than a half an hour. Okay, and you get a transaction going, and you're like, holy crap, this is a great little device, and it's really freaking cool. I use it with Wasabi, and I really like it, and it is I have so as you know, I have the lightning nodes, and I also I use a Trezor, and I use a Cold Card. So, and I also have a Cobalt, which I don't. I just tested for what's it called, for Li Xin from Cobalt, but I don't actually store any funds on it. I just used it for testing it to see how it goes, and that UI is really cool.
Check that out.
Yeah, the UI for Cobalt is pretty cool, and you have a phone app with it, and you essentially all you're doing is scanning QR codes, right? So you have the hardware wallet QR code, you have the QR code on your phone, and that's how you do your transactions. It's
that's neat.
Yeah, man, it's air gapped. It's
I like that.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, like they are definitely stepping up. Like I'm excited to see what comes out of these guys. But I still recommend Cold Card though.
Yeah, I'll definitely be picking one up in the near future.
Cool. So, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners of the cast?
No, just thank you for having me on. This was my first podcast, obviously, but
cool.
I appreciate coming on and listening to myself as well. That'll be kind of surreal, but keep it up with the show, and love Bitcoin.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's long overdue, and man, I wish you a lot of success with getcoin.io. I think it's going to help a lot of pre-coiners, dude.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Very cool. Take it easy.
All right, you too, man. Bye.
So I hope you guys enjoyed my discussion with Nabismo.Prime. You'll find his contact details in the show notes, as well as the link to his website, getcoin.io. I definitely suggest that people check it out and take a look at the resources that he's putting together over there. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you all next week.